Activist Radio is on the air.
You have tuned into the Mark Harrington Show, sponsored by Created Equal.
Mark is training a new generation of leaders
to take on the culture of death and win.
You don't like abortion, don't have one.
The only thing that can be said to be objective truth is that there is no objective truth.
It does come out in one piece. It comes out in one piece.
I would argue that we certainly are not all created equal.
And now, here's Mark.
Have you ever heard of the intensity gap? That's right, the intensity gap. If you've never heard of it, we're going to talk about it today on the Mark Harrington Show. Your radio activist, Mark Harrington, coming to you live from Created Equal Studios here in Columbus, Ohio, and also over several Salem radio stations in Michigan and Ohio, as well as my social media sites. That's right. We're going to be talking about the intensity gap and how pro-life young people are more intensely focused on outlawing abortion in comparison to pro-choice or abortion advocates are in trying to keep it legal. If you don't believe me, this term, if you will, was coined by Nancy Keenan, who was she's a former president of NARAL. And when she got off the bus during the March for Life in 2014 in Washington, D.C., and she saw all the young people going to the march, she was just shocked that how many people were there, how many young people were there. And that's when she coined this term when she was talking to Time Magazine, the intensity gap. And according to a survey that was done at the time, 51% of voters younger than the age of 30 who oppose abortion consider it very important to them, compared to only 26% of their peers who support abortion rights, if you will. So that 51% to 26%. That's the intensity gap. Almost 25 percentage points between pro-life advocates and pro-abortion advocates, young people. And we're going to talk about that today on the Mark Harrington Show. You can go to our website at markharrington.org if you want to find more about us, and also createdequal.org. Before we get into that, I want to talk about some other young people, in particular, my young person, my son, Christen Harrington. Historically, this week, once again, we are trying to pass the Ohio heartbeat bill. And the heartbeat bill is now into its 8th year of attempting to get passed, signed by our governor. I've testified many a time down there. And interesting enough, my son has as well. 7 years ago, my son Christian testified on behalf of the heartbeat bill. And it's now come full circle, because just this week, my son, who is now 15, he was 8 years old, he's now 15, also testified on behalf of the heartbeat bill. And when we talk about the intensity gap, when you have an 8-year-old standing up for what they believe in, and then 8 years later doing the same very thing, I can tell you this: it puts fear in the hearts of our enemies. I mean, the crowd there, the pro-abortion crowd there, were gnashing their teeth when my son was speaking, because they know what that is. They know what that's all about. And they know they cannot match the intensity on the pro-life side. So what I want to do, I'm going to play these clips. Now, keep in mind, the first one is done, it was 8 years ago, in downtown Columbus at the State House on behalf of the heartbeat bill. That's the first clip. The second clip is 7 years later. My son's 15. That was just this week, also testifying on the heartbeat bill. So go ahead, Mr. Producer, if you would play that first clip.
I'm Christen Harrington, and I'm 8 years old, and I'm here to save babies with beating hearts. And I want to tell the senators to pass the heartbeat bill right now. And when I mean right now, I mean right now.
Well, there you go. 8 years ago, my son, Christen Harrington, testifying down at the State House. And then almost full circle now, 8 years later, 7 years later, now 15, taller than me, which isn't saying a whole lot, to be honest with you, but he's taller than me and my wife. You just see the difference, the span, you know, of 7 years, 8 years old to 15. It's been that long that it's taken to get the heartbeat bill passed. We're hoping to get that done here in the next month or so. So let's play that second clip. This was this week, testifying at the Ohio House Health Committee at the State House here in Columbus. My son, Christian Harrington, at 15 years old.
Thank you for having me. Next, we'll call to the podium Christian Harrington. Then after Christian Harrington, we're going to have Alan DeBleck and then Sharon Mars. Christian, thank you for being here today. Proceed when ready.
Thank you, Chairman Marin, Vice Chairman Manning, Ranking Member Boyd, and members of the Health Committee for the opportunity to testify in favor of Substitute Senate Bill 23, the Heartbeat Bill. My name is Christian Harrington. I am 15 years old. 7 years ago, I spoke on behalf of the Heartbeat Bill at a press conference here at the State House. I am here once again today because I want to save babies that have a beating heart. It has been 7 years since I spoke in defense of the Heartbeat Bill. Since then, over 140,000 babies have died with beating hearts. The children cannot wait any longer. The time for delay has passed. As I said then, and I will say now, I want the Heartbeat Bill to pass now, and when I say now, I mean right now. Thank you.
All right, we can end it there. The similar wording there again. 140,000 babies have died in those 7 years. Think about that, folks. And the delays that we've seen at the State House on the Heartbeat Bill. If it were passed in 2008 or 2011, when my son first testified, we would have saved 140,000 babies from abortion. 8 years later, we're still at it. My son testifies at 15. So we're talking about the intensity gap today on the Mark Harrington Show. Go to markharrington.org if you want to find out more about our ministry. Now, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk to our good friend and colleague up in Michigan. I say the word Michigan. I probably shouldn't. As an Ohio State Buckeye fan, we call that state the state up north. We don't call it Michigan. But for the sake of our discussion today, we'll discuss it in terms of the state of Michigan. My good friend and guest on the program today, Christen Pollo, is the executive director for Protect Life Michigan. Christen, thanks for being on the program.
Thank you for having me, Mark.
So you got to listen to my son a little bit there. It's exciting to see young people stepping into the battle on abortion. And you know, he didn't do it just because his dad made him. I mean, he believes this stuff, of course. And there are thousands, I would say millions of young people across America that do the same. Your organization in Michigan's been making a big difference. Just last week, you had several people at the signing of the executive order for President Trump dealing with campus free speech. I want to first talk about that, just the issue of free speech on college campuses and what you guys encounter. And then I will switch gears to what you guys are doing in Michigan on the college campuses. So how did you guys, how did President Trump even invite you? I mean, I wasn't invited. I missed the invitation. How did you guys get the invite?
It was certainly an honor for Protect Life Michigan to be represented there at the White House for that special event. Several of our students were invited because of free speech issues they faced on their own campuses over the last couple of years. And that's something that is the norm, unfortunately, on many of our campuses here in Michigan. We have students that are forced to courageously stand up against their university on a regular basis. And so that's why they were there and a part of that special event.
So what kind of things have you been encountering? I can go on about what we encounter all the time, and I think you're familiar with that. But on the campuses in Michigan, what types of things are you guys running up against? Because what we hear from, when I testified the other day on the Ohio Campus Free Speech Act, some of the legislators think that this is just made up. We're really not encountering problems on university campuses. What kind of things do you run into up there?
Well, Alliance Defending Freedom's phones are ringing off the hook. Thanks to us. They're getting calls all the time about things that we're facing. Some of the things that are going on right now are issues with students who submit budgets to the university asking for funding and receive absolutely none, when other groups on campus are receiving tens of thousands of dollars or more. We also see all kinds of little issues with events not getting approved, flyers not getting approved. In fact, we have one school in particular that has coined this catchphrase, "Show me the written policy," because so often it feels like the schools are just making this up as they go, trying to find any excuse they can to silence the pro-life message. It's really a shame.
Well, as you know, we encounter that all over the country when we travel with our abortion victim photography and video. They create these free speech zones. They send out trigger warnings to students, warning them that created equals coming, and to avoid the area, they try to assess fees for security, require us to carry insurance, all these things. And see, here's the thing. They know they can't ban organizations like yourself or us, because the First Amendment protects our rights to speech, but they make it difficult to actually exercise it. And that's what this Campus Free Speech Act in Ohio is meant to address. And that's why I testified the other day about it. And also President Trump's executive order dealing with universities. If they're not going to follow the First Amendment, then they shouldn't get tax funding. That's basically what his executive order was about. So we're hoping, I don't believe we need to amend the First Amendment. It doesn't need amended. It should stand alone. But the problem is we don't have the legal firepower that these universities have to, come up against us. We just don't have it. I've got to pick my battles. I'm sure you do too. And the Alliance Defending Freedom, Thomas More Society, Life Legal Defense, they're all strapped for time. They don't have endless time or resources to be defending people like you and I. And so we have to really pick our battles, where a university almost has endless resources to go into a legal fight if they wish. So we're very, very outgunned on college campuses.
It's true. And then on top of that, it can be hard sometimes to find students that are brave enough to stand up against that, because we've had students that were faced with disciplinary action from the university, trying to silence them in that way and impact their academic life. And that's a scary thing to stand up against. But we're very grateful here in Michigan to have a lot of students that are brave and aren't afraid to fight back. It's just a shame that they have to.
Let me read some startling statistics regarding our young people when it comes to free speech. And then I want to talk about the intensity gap and the good news. This is a Brookings Institution fellow and UCLA professor, John Velasinar. He wrote this. He defined this phenomenon of this climate on college campuses when he published a survey indicating only 39% of American college students believe the First Amendment protects offensive statements. That's alarming. 4 out of 10 American college students don't think the First Amendment protects offensive statements. That's the whole purpose of the First Amendment, is to protect disturbing, off-putting, offensive speech. And 4 out of 10 don't get it. Let's see. 50% of those who responded believe it's acceptable to shout down offensive speakers. That's called the heckler's veto, a mob rule, if you will. And then, 19% endorse the use of violence to suppress speech. So when we talk about the executive order, we talk about these campus free speech acts that are being passed across the country. There is a real problem on college campuses because the universities are letting students get away with this stuff. And I think more importantly, they're teaching them that, shouting down a speaker, even resorting to violence in some cases, is an acceptable means of disagreement. You find that on your campuses in Michigan, where students just don't know the limitations of the First Amendment and what they, they should be or shouldn't be allowed to do?
Absolutely. And I think that it's getting worse. Even just in this last year, we've seen an uptick in vandalism and thankfully not physical violence against our students yet. But I think we're getting closer and closer to that point every day, because college students seem to have this belief that they're entitled to a bubble that no one can permeate with an opinion that they don't agree with.
My guest again is Christen Pollo. She's with Protect Life Michigan, executive director up there in Michigan, dealing with the college campuses there. I want to switch gears here, Christen, if we could. I want to talk about your outreaches there on the college campuses in Michigan. Give us a short, I guess, summary of what is the purpose of your group? What are you attempting to accomplish there in Michigan?
Sure. We work with a network of over 50 high school and college campuses here in Michigan. Those are primarily Protect Life student organizations that exist to share the reality of abortion on campus. And so a lot of that involves getting out and dialoguing with students. We're grateful for every opportunity we have to bring Created Equal here to help us with that. And just trying to expose students to the reality of abortion, whether that's with images or campus displays or with dialogue. We're really intentional about training our students to be effective and strategic leaders. And then the most important piece is getting them out there to actually engage so that they can change hearts and ultimately save lives.
You have a really innovative and creative project called Stump the ProLifer. Would you share what that is? Because I think that's one of your best projects you guys do.
My husband might be a little mad at me this week because I accidentally booked one for every single night of the week. So
that's a bit much.
This week of lots of traveling, and he is our keynote speaker for that presentation. So Stump the ProLifer was created with the idea that students are not given opportunities to dialogue effectively on abortion. Things fall apart when we try to converse on social media. Professors are only teaching one side of the issue. So we thought, let's try to get students all together in a room that disagree with each other and see if we can create some kind of dialogue. So Stump the ProLifer is kind of a controversial name. We put my husband on the flyer. People don't like that a man is speaking to this issue. And we have quite a few students turn out. We've had as many as 150 students come to just a single event. This week we've seen amazing turnouts, and sometimes as many as 33% of the pro-choice students that attend have a change of heart in just an hour and a half. And I think that's because they aren't given opportunities to hear the pro-life message and engage with it. And when they do, they realize their arguments just don't hold water.
So Stump the ProLifer, does your husband give a short presentation and then just open it up for questions? Is that how it works?
He does, yeah. He tries to bust a few myths in the beginning about what it means to be pro-life, presents our very short argument for why we believe the unborn deserve protection, and then opens the floor for arguments. And at the beginning of the event, I would say tensions are pretty high. It's clear they're not a fan of this guy. But by the end of the night, they're actually laughing with him. And we have frequently students stick around for 2 hours after the event to talk more because they are so engaged, which I think is really, really powerful.
Well, that's super because normally we don't find that students often behave. So it's good to find out that some pro-choice students actually know how to have a civil discourse with those who would disagree with them. So what is your website, Christen, if you would give that out, please?
Our website is protectlifemi.org. There you can find all kinds of resources on starting a campus group, becoming a better activist. We also do a lot of events that students from any state are welcome to come to and learn from.
So that's Protect Life, say again?
Protectlifemi.org.
Protectlifemi.org. You can check out Protect Life Michigan, Christen Pollo, and the organization up there and the state up north. For those listening in the Michigan area, we are over the air there in Detroit at WLQV. That's WLQV. That's AM 1500 and 92.7 FM. So in the Michigan area, we do actually have the radio program broadcasting over the air. And folks, if you live in the Michigan area and you hear the sound of my voice, you need to get a hold of Christen and Protect Life Michigan and get involved in some of their campus outreach and other events that they're doing around the state. So, Christen, let's do this. I want to shift gears in the few minutes we have left here and talk about the upcoming spring schedule. We're partnering with you, as you well know, in Michigan at some campuses coming up. And for those who live in the Michigan area listening to the sound of my voice, you're more than welcome to contact us. Go to createdequal.org, or you can go to protectlifemi.org if you want to get involved in these outreaches. But we'll be going to Grand Valley State University, Western Michigan University, Grand Rapids Community College, Michigan State University there in East Lansing, and Eastern Michigan University. Those 5 in April. So if you're interested, and your students there, Kristin, are helping to sponsor our events on several of those campuses. So we're looking forward to that, going up there with our victim photography and video and reaching the college campuses. Let me ask you this. We got about 5 minutes left in the program. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you about what you think about the use of victim photography and how your organization has kind of, over time, I guess, believe that this is an effective way of reaching college students.
Mm-hmm. I was never opposed to the use of it. In fact, when I was a student at, I'm sorry to say, the University of Michigan, I did.
No, that's okay. You can go ahead and say that. It's no longer a rivalry.
All right, fair enough.
Go ahead.
I did outreach in college with abortion victim photography, but as I came into a leadership role with Protect Life Michigan, I think I let fear get the best of me and was maybe a little bit scared to be outspoken about that. And, it's interesting that as I started developing a relationship with Created Equal and learning from you and Seth Dreyer, I learned that fear is not an excuse. If something is effective and it works, we owe the unborn and the women that face an abortion decision, we owe them our very best. And I've experienced that firsthand. I know that it works, especially with students who are so apathetic. I think sometimes it's the only way we can break through to them. And so, we encourage our students regularly to get out on campus and do this, because I think they may be a little bit scared. Our groups on campus aren't the pillow fight club. There's a little bit of controversy there. But when they actually get out and do this type of outreach, they see how effective it is, and that students are open to dialoguing. They're not going to, freak out and throw a hissy fit 95% of the time. A productive conversation will ensue. So,
right. Again, my guest is Christen Pollo. She's the executive director for Protect Life Michigan. Sorry, Protect Life Michigan. Go to protectlifemi.org if you want to find out more. Once again, we'll be going to Grand Valley State University, Western Michigan University, Grand Rapids Community College, Michigan State University, and Eastern Michigan University as part of our Road Trip for Life. That's what we call it, Road Trip for Life, where we put activists on the road for anywhere from 3 to 5 weeks at a time, going campus to campus to campus, state to state to state, abortion clinic, high schools, all of it in a 3 to 5 week period of time. So we'll be spending an entire week in the state of Michigan. To wrap it up, we got about 2 minutes left. Kristin, what else are you doing? And if you would just speak to my audience of what do you think they can do as they're listening to the sound of our voice today?
We are doing so much, like I said, to continue to encourage students to stand up even in the face of fear and go out and talk to people about this issue. Get out in the community and on your campus and start engaging, because as I said, and as we see with Stump the ProLifer, students that are pro-choice and are exposed to our arguments realize that their worldview just doesn't stand up, doesn't water against our truth. So I would encourage the same of your listeners to not be afraid to have that conversation, whether it's on social media or with family or friends. Speak, because speaking changes hearts.
Christen Pollo is my guest. Go to protectlifemi.org. Find out more. And folks, if you want to support Created Equal, go to createdequal.org. You can support us financially as we go about the country to college campuses, high school campuses, and wherever else we need to raise the voice of raise our voices on behalf of the preborn. We do that all over the country. Got big plans coming ahead of us here this spring and summer. Our campus tour, as I just told you, the Road Trip for Life. We also have a tour of the late term infanticide states coming this summer, early summer. That'll be New York, Vermont, Rhode Island, Maryland, Washington, D.C., that kind of those kinds of places. So if you want to help us out financially, please feel free to do so. We need your help. You can go to createdequal.org, click on the donate link, or you can give to Created Equal by going to P.O. Box 360502, Columbus, Ohio 43236. We'll see you next time. God bless you. God bless America. And remember, America, to bless God.
You've been listening to Mark Harrington.
Your radio activist.
For more information on how to become a witness against the evil plague in America, call Created Equal at 614-269-7808, 614-269-7808, or go online to createdequal.net.
Createdequal.net.
Be sure to tune to The Mark Harrington Show next time for your marching orders
In the culture war.